Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Courageous Conversations. And today is a gorgeous day. It's the solstice this afternoon. I am just springy and feeling the courageous conversation. I hope everyone starts to join me. And I'm just going to do a little bit of sharing because sharing is caring. And I really want to share this message today about peacetime thinking versus wartime thinking. This is an interesting way of looking at life sometimes. How are you processing? But before I go forward, I am going to do a little bit of sharing because I really feel like this is a message everyone should hear. How are you processing life? How are you experiencing life? Is it from a peaceful place, a peacetime thinking place, or are you engaging the biochemistry of wartime thinking? And that's a very important distinction when you are processing, and you need to know what you're in. What process are you in? I'm just doing a little bit of sharing and onto my page, Courageous Conversations, onto my group, Courageous Conversations, and I'm glad you're all joining me. This is great, and I'm going to start with my with just a little bit of thanks, Wendy. I appreciate the love. And you know, the thing about the solstice, I don't know if you're feeling it, but I feel so springy. I feel so like, so great. It's sunny in Toronto. I'm so fortunate, feeling so fortunate right now, is that there's such a renewal time. This is such an opportunity for renewal. This is an opportunity. Good morning, Wendy. It's an opportunity for really stepping into a new vibration, a new experience. Spring is such a good time to let go of so many experiences, not only what you've experienced before, but also ways of being, ways of thinking, ways of treating people. I'm going to continue to share a little bit, everybody. I hope you will join me in the sharing because this is good stuff for people to take in. I'm almost there, just going to a couple more groups. And once I am done, I will begin the conversation. All right, so let's talk a little bit about wartime thinking versus peacetime thinking. So the thing about, good morning, Susan. Hello. Hi, Hanya. Great to see you. Such a beautiful springy morning in Toronto. I feel that solstice energy, lots and lots of opportunity for renewal. And I want to talk a little bit about, from Bahamas. Wonderful, Hanya. I'm so glad. I'm glad that you're in the sun, and I'm going to be in the sun soon too at the end of April. So I'm excited for anyone who's taken in the sun right now. And we're having lots of sun here in Toronto. So let's just talk about this nuance of wartime thinking versus peacetime thinking. And how are you processing life? Because not everyone knows. There's a story, actually, a famous story, which I want to share with you guys, about a Japanese soldier, World War II. And he was commissioned with protecting one of the Japanese islands. And he was very instrumental in protecting that whole area. And he did that with fierceness, and he did that with honor, and he did that with tremendous, warring mentality, because he knew that he needed that to protect that island, because there were all kinds of rumors that that island was going to be attacked. And when he did that wonderfully, and he engaged all parts of him to be tactical, to be analytical, to be reactive, to be on point, to be there, to be present, to be very awake, not relaxed. Let's go. Anyways, the war finished. The war was over, World War II, and this was not an era of cell phones, and so even two-way communication was difficult at the time, especially in that area of the world. And he didn't know that the war was over. In fact, people would come, they would send these different sort of parties over to let him know the war was over. But he didn't believe it. He thought, this is tactics. This is dangerous for the island that I'm protecting. He stayed in wartime mode until the 70s, when finally the leaders of the time of Japan really were able to slowly coax him out of the jungle and to slowly, show him newspapers, show him, because he was killing the villagers. I'm not laughing about that, but he was acting like, these are invaders and this is an island I need to protect because we are at war. And it took him into the 70s. So, the war was over in the, late 40s, so this was an important lot of time where his mind was skewed toward we are at war. And he reacted in all ways that were warlike. So I'm giving you this now. This is a story, a true story, but I want to have you take this analogy to how you react to conflict, to disharmony, to problems, to issues, to people who done you wrong, because often I see that people who've come from traumas or difficult relationships bring the energy of that particular experience to their present life, which is not at war. Their present life is at peace. But they are experiencing a lot of defensiveness, tactical. They said this, so I'm going to say this. They hurt me, I'll hurt them double. They're not going to F with me because I will F with them first. And this isn't a love relationship or a partnership of some kind, even just a business partnership, a friendship, a love relationship. There's a lot of this, this went on, so I'm going to do this. There's no relaxation. Case study, one person in the couple speaks to the other person in the couple in a passive aggressive way, in a passive aggressive way. It's like it hits you. It's like what happened? And it's usually a commentary that's side comment, passive aggressive, cutting you down, saying something kind of mean. Well, you don't know what you're talking about, or blah 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 blah. Whatever it is, some side comment, some passive aggressive comment, and it feels like with that comment that the person is trying to tear them down, trying to cut them at the knees, criticize, take away their power. But the question is, when I'm working with this couple, even though that feels like that, nobody can take away your power. Nobody can cut you at the knees. Nobody can do anything that you don't allow. People can say things, can express things, can passive-aggressively try to attack you or whatever it may be. But it is up to you and how you receive that. And if you're coming and receiving that and processing that in a wartime way, you're going to tactically, get in the dirt with them, and we're off to the races, and the drama ensues, and then the fight ensues. And if you're in peacetime, you have time to just sit back and assess. Not only are you assessing, but you're speaking from what am I feeling in this moment? Oh, I feel a sting. So wartime will be, you effed me, you hurt me, I'll hurt you back, and I'm going to defend, and I'm going to attack back. Peacetime processing is, oh, wow, that's kind of I feel pain, I feel hurt, I feel annoyed, possibly a little bit angry, and so let me go and take some space to feel and take care of myself, and to, self-care, take some time for me. And then I'm going to respond accordingly with what you said. I felt kind of was hurtful, and I would really appreciate it if you didn't talk to me that way. And if the person doesn't own what they did, it's like, well, when you said this, the feeling I had was kind of a wounding feeling, and I don't particularly like to hang out with that too much. That's not something I'm going to be allowing too much. So what's that about? Is there something going on that's not that you're experiencing? Because this is something that you just spoke to me in this way. So, and it's more of a peaceful manner of decoding, dismantling, processing something that's coming towards you, versus it came toward me, it wounded me, I've taken on their opinion of me, I've taken on what they're thinking, and now I'm in attack mode. That's the wartime. And it's very much family culture training, trauma training, family culture training. This is how the family did it. And there's no opportunity to peacefully assess, because there's no emotional safety. Even if there is emotional safety in the real world, in the warring mind, there is no emotional safety. We must be prepared. We must be ready. We must be at the ready. We must be, we must be tactical. We must be analytical. We must be all of those things. And so there's no opportunity for really assessing it in a peaceful way because we're trained to get in there. And I feel like there's this moment, and I'm just going to read a couple of the comments. Susan Connolly says, I don't lash out, I internalize which creates a civil war internally. There you go. Has caused chronic stress, anxiety, and situational depression. I truly want to learn how not to be so affected by people and things. And the key to that, Susan, the most important thing in all of that, and everyone should hear this, is that the most important way to not be so impacted and internalizing what other people are saying, thinking, and doing is to ground yourself, is to create lots and lots of work with you, where you are experiencing self-love. The new commodities on offer are self-love, self-care, self-compassion, self-acceptance, versus the old commodities, which were self-doubt, self-loathing, self-criticism, and therefore you're open season for anybody's opinion. So it's all about grounding yourself, staying within the truth of literally cultivating the opinion of yourself through you and seeing yourself through loving eyes. And even though people that can be passive aggressive are hard to be around, you can decide. Wendy says people like this are so hard to be around, right? If I decide to stay away, does this mean I'm at war also? Only if you amputate. Because I'm not talking about someone you don't have to be in a relationship. I'm talking about people that, that you're in a relationship with, whether it be family member, whether it be a love relationship. Amputation is easy, but with lots of consequences. And amputation is, to me, reserved for the very, 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 very abusive. Not just people you're feeling kind of uncomfortable with, and your own insecurities are showing up with that person. To me, you lose out on the training ground that person can offer you. And to just cut out all the people you feel uncomfortable with is to deny yourself of a really important training and opening of your strength and power. And so I'm not saying you hang out with them that much, Wendy. I'm not saying that you hang out at all that much. What I am saying is that if you are going to be in moments where you are with that person, then allow yourself to peacetime process that relationship versus wartime process that relationship. Because in wartime, it's all outward, it's all tactical, it's all defensive, it's all, impulse, impact, quick, fast, I've got to deal with this, this is I'm being attacked. Peacetime is nobody can attack me unless I allow them to attack me. Nobody can take away my sense of who I am unless I allow that. And I have to process what I'm feeling within myself right now. And the most important person right now is me. And going, what do I feel? What do I need? Where am I in this? And then nobody is taking away your value, your power, nothing. So, and nobody can make you feel anything. People can act in all kinds of ways, but we're at a split second before that feeling, before that experience, before that reaction. We're on some subconscious level choosing that. And so peacetime processing is to go, oh, I can see things from a bird's eye view. I can see things from a bigger perspective. But in order to get to peacetime processing, you need to absolutely relax yourself, calm yourself, and value yourself, love yourself, offer yourself the kind of commodities that are about self-healing and self-acceptance versus the commodities of self-defense, defensive, wartime stances of your relational ways of being. And everything that I'm talking about requires a commitment to practice this way of being with yourself on a regular basis, and not take on other people's dramas or other people's opinions or other people's passive aggressive comments, but also not just, whack them into kingdom come, because that's the wartime way of processing. And if you've come up in a warring kind of a family, or you've had a lot of warring ways of being, it's habituated. It's a neural pathway. And in order to change those neural pathways, you got to do something different over and over and over and over. And we have no control of other people's perspective of us, just like Wendy is saying. Personalities are very different. And there is a natural clash, not necessarily. Just because someone is different doesn't mean there has to be a clash. That's something to really remember, Wendy. And I think it's something you got to really get. It's that just because we think differently doesn't mean there's a clash. We just got to go, it's okay. This is the way it is. There it is. C'est la vie. They think that way. Not my monkey, not my circus. Repeat that in your head 10 times. Not my monkey, not my circus. They think this way, they feel this way, they process life this way. Okay, that's not mine. That's theirs. We are individuals. We are not codependent. We are not intertwined. We are not enmeshed. And let that be, and really honor them. Start to see them for the teachers that they are in your life. Peacetime thinking, peacetime thinking. Honor people for their differences because they're teachers in your life. What a concept. And I'm the first to say none of this is easy, okay? Not easy, yet doable, trainable, doable. And that to me is the process of self-care, self-love, self-healing, is you, a human being, going, okay, I've been through some war, I've been through some hell, and yet I'm not letting the hell destroy my present. That hell is in the past. Let that hell be in the past, and let the past not ruin my present. And I can't tell you, as a psychotherapist that works with couples and people all day long, people's pasts are just invading their presence, not because the past is overly horrific, but because they're allowing the past. They are choosing on some level to let the past invade the present and acting like there's still a war going on. And the benefit to that, the skewed benefit to allowing the past to invade your present, is somehow people get very familiar, stay safe in the familiar territory is where they want to stay safe in. And to be honest with you, that's why people do it. That's why we do it. That's why we stay in the past, because it's familiar, and we want to sit in the familiar. The unknown is more scary than the crappy past. So Wendy says, I know, I bring in my triggers and I feel I have to clamp my mouth shut. Good. And yes, just shrug my shoulders, but I don't feel authentic. Okay, let's just demystify authentic. This is not your real you. Wendy and all people who feel like, well, it's not authentic if I don't speak my truth. No, it's not authentic to be defensive. Your real you is actually very allowing, very accepting, okay? The defense mechanisms, the wartime processes that we adopt are not our true self. People get confused. They think, well, I'm not being my true self if I'm not saying everything in an unfiltered way, attacking back. You don't know your real self if that's what you think your real self is. Your real self is much more accepting, allowing, peaceful, just letting people just be who they are. That's your true self. It's a lot of our true selves. But then we got all these defenses that we build because of family of origin stuff, because of bullying, because of relationship issues, whatever it may be. And then that becomes these walls that appear to be our true self. But I call that the false self. That's the false self. Don't let the false self lead your life. The false self is more apt to be defensive, wartime thinking, all of those types of things. The real self is much more peaceful. That's where you take away and shed all that other stuff, shed it, let it go, and you start to really see, oh, my real self really isn't so combative, defensive, opinionated, unfiltered. Wartime thinking. So people say, oh, it's not I don't feel authentic. And just because you don't feel authentic, we're not our feelings. Don't let your feelings be the only thing that guides you. The feelings sometimes come from oftentimes come from the most primitive, less evolved aspect of ourselves. And that's not the true authentic us. I hope this helps. I hope this helps. The journey towards selfhood, peaceful selfhood, is a big one. And Susan says, thank you, I thank you. And you took notes. Good job, good job. I will apply these. It's a lifetime way of reacting for me. I'm ready for change. And learning to care for me, yes. And do what I want, yes, without others' permission. Hallelujah. Or criticism. Well, they're going to criticize, Susan. They're going to criticize. That's just life. Won't be easy. You're right. We'll take daily practice. Yes, you're right. However, I'm here listening and hearing from you today. Thank you, because I don't want to continue living like this with past messages of who I am, what you don't deserve exactly, and that you're worthy. Everybody, you're worthy, and you're valuable, and you're deserving of love, especially love of self. First, love of self. First, number one, love of self. And Susan says, my internal critic has been lied to. The false self. Exactly. 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 Okay, light bulb, Wendy says. Good. The true self, not the warring self, the real self. Okay, everybody take a deep breath in. That was intense. I want you to keep having courageous conversations with yourself and others. I want you to be courageously self-loving no matter what other people say, think, or do. And your real self isn't your wartime self, it's your peacetime self. Wartime is a construct we put together in order to cope with what we perceive to be the attack. And we only can perceive it as an attack if we allow ourselves to be in a place of, the world has a right to impact me, to penetrate me. No, you are in charge of what comes in and what goes out. And just because someone says something about you, oh, you're so this, you're so that, doesn't mean you are. That's their opinion. And it's their vantage point. Listen to you. Listen to you. And listen to you before all the voices told you who you are. Because you're wonderful. You're magnificent. So, if this is helpful, I want you to keep sharing it and proliferating it, because people need to hear this. And join my group, Courageous Conversations, because it's a closed group and a sort of a support group, an inspiring group, but it's closed, so ask to join. I'd love to have you there. It's a nice space to be. And do like my pages, Courageous Conversations and Victoria Lorient Fabish, Courageous Conversations. And I just want you to keep hanging out with me on the journey, because it's a good journey. All right? Big love, big hugs. Keep loving yourself, man. Keep having courageous conversations with you and with yourself and with others. Blessings. Blessings.